The Shadow Game, Unmasking Dark Psychology, master the mechanics of covert influence, gaslighting, and emotional warfare. So you can see through them all. Welcome to Mindelle, where audiobooks transform your mind. This audiobook was written and created by Mindelle, dedicated to helping you attract your life. If you enjoy this content and want more audiobooks designed to inspire and elevate your mindset, make sure to subscribe to our channel. You can also listen to us on Spotify, download the ebook version, and support our work. All the links you'll need are provided in the description below. Disclaimer: this audiobook is created solely for educational and self-protection purposes. It is intended to help listeners recognize, understand, and defend against psychological manipulation and abuse. Mindelle and its creator do not support, endorse, or accept responsibility for the misuse of any content within this audiobook. The insights shared are meant to empower your awareness, not enable control over others. Use this knowledge ethically, and remember, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Chapter 1. What is dark psychology? Dark psychology is not new. It has existed as long as power has. In ancient courts, behind closed doors, across cults, governments, relationships, and corporations. Wherever influence exists, so does the temptation to twist it. It is not the domain of villains in fiction. It is real, everyday, and often invisible. It's the way a lover makes you question your sanity with a soft smile. It's the voice in your head that didn't start as your own. It's the charm that slips into your life quietly and stays to hollow you out. To study dark psychology is to take off the blindfold, to see how words, body language, silence, even kindness can become weapons in the hands of those who wish to control. Dark psychology is not inherently evil. Like fire, it can warm or destroy. It is neutral until it meets the will of the person using it. That is why understanding it is not dangerous. Not understanding it is. In this book, we won't dance around the techniques. We will explore them head on. How gaslighting works, how guilt is used like a leash, how manipulation takes root in your needs, not your flaws. You will learn to recognize the predator in the sheep's clothing, and how your own desire for love, validation, and connection can be the very thing that binds you to them. This is not a manual for cruelty. It is a guide to awareness. Because only when you see the puppet strings can you decide never to dance again. Chapter 2. The mind of the manipulator. There was a man once who could walk into a room and own it without saying a word. He studied people like puzzles. He knew what they needed before they did. One woman felt invisible. He made her feel radiant. Another feared abandonment. He became her rock. Then he took everything. The manipulator doesn't feel connection like you do. They experience interaction as strategy. Every compliment is currency. Every story is a calculated mask. When you cry, they don't feel remorse. They feel control. This is not always malicious in the Hollywood sense. Often, manipulators believe the world is dangerous, and the only way to survive is to dominate it emotionally. They don't trust love. They trust leverage. They remember what you tell them in moments of vulnerability, and they use it as psychological ammunition later. They praise when they want something. They withdraw when they want to punish. They don't just want your body, your time, or your resources. They want your center. And once they own it, they will rewrite you from the inside out. Their genius is subtlety. They rarely scream. They rarely threaten. They use your empathy against you. Your hope becomes the leash. Your kindness becomes the noose. To see the manipulator for what they are is painful. It strips away the illusion of shared humanity. But it is necessary, because they count on you not seeing it. Understanding their mind doesn't make you like them. It makes you free from them. Chapter 3. Gaslighting. Rewriting reality. Imagine waking up one day unsure of whether the events you remember actually happened. You can recall every detail, the conversation, the emotion, the impact. But when you speak of it, you're told, that never happened. At first, you brush it off. Maybe you were tired, maybe you misheard. But it happens again and again. And soon, the memories that once felt clear now seem fuzzy, distant and full of self-doubt. Gaslighting begins like a whisper, a subtle challenge to your certainty. It wears the face of concern, love, logic. You're just overthinking. You must be stressed. You're being too emotional. The gaslighter does not attack you directly. They erode your foundation slowly. They create confusion not to challenge your thoughts, but to replace them. You begin to ask them what's real, what's true, what happened. And that's the goal. Psychological dependence. Not through force, through disorientation. A woman I once spoke to told me how she stopped trusting her own eyes. Her partner would hide small things, keys, jewelry, her phone, then return them later without saying a word. She'd question herself, thinking she must be losing her mind. And each time she doubted herself, he became more trustworthy in her eyes. This is the horror of gaslighting. You stop being able to rely on your own mind. And when that happens, you will rely on someone else's. The gaslighter becomes your compass. They define reality, not you. But here's the truth they fear. Reality does not require validation. What you felt is real. What you saw is real. What you experienced is real. And anyone who insists otherwise is not offering truth. They are selling control. Gaslighting is not just lying. It is emotional colonization, and your mind is the land they seek to own. In the coming chapters, we will expose more of their weapons. Because once you understand their toolkit, you will no longer fear their magic. You will see the trick, and you will walk away. Chapter 4. Narcissists and emotional predators. There is a predator more dangerous than the one who screams. It is the one who smiles. They look like your soulmate, your savior, your second chance. But they are watching you, studying what you crave, what you fear, what you feel ashamed of. And then, they become everything you ever wanted. This is the narcissist's first mask, seduction. They flood you with affection, attention, flattery. They listen deeply, but only to gather intel. They give you intense eye contact, mimic your values, mirror your dreams. It feels like love. It feels like destiny. But it is a trap. Because beneath the charm lies a black hole, an endless appetite for validation, control, and worship. Once you're hooked, the mask begins to slip. Compliments turn into criticism. Affection turns cold. Suddenly, you're walking on eggshells, trying to get back to the person they were in the beginning. But that person never existed. It was a projection, created to hook you. They devalue you, not because you changed, but because the game has shifted. The idealization is over. The control begins, and just when you're about to walk away, they pull you back in, with just enough sweetness, just enough sorrow, to reignite your hope. This is the cycle. Idealize, Devalue, discard, hoover, and repeat. Narcissists don't want love. They want supply. Your praise, your pain, your devotion. The moment you stop providing it, you are no longer useful. To break free, you must give up the fantasy that you can earn their love. You cannot, because they do not love. They feed. Chapter 5. Covert persuasion in relationships. Manipulation doesn't always come with fangs. Sometimes it whispers through kindness. I'm only saying this because I love you. You'd do this if you cared about me. Everyone else sees it my way. These aren't statements. They are tactics. Covert persuasion is designed to override your resistance by wrapping control in affection, logic, or guilt. It creates invisible pressure, and the more empathetic you are, the more it works. The manipulator builds trust, then slowly pushes boundaries. They start small, an opinion dismissed, a joke at your expense, a request you don't want to honor. Then it escalates. Your no becomes negotiable. Your truth becomes optional. Your needs shrink while theirs expand. They use reciprocity to trap you. After everything I've done for you. They use scarcity. You'll never find anyone who understands you like I do. They use fear. If you leave, you'll regret it. These are not lovers. These are architects of psychological cages. Real love expands you. Covert persuasion compresses you. The more you twist yourself to fit their version of love, the more you forget your own shape. Chapter 6. Trauma bonding. Addicted to the cycle. You don't notice the chain until it starts to tighten. And by then, it feels like love. Trauma bonding is a deeply insidious form of psychological attachment, forged not through safety, but through chaos. It occurs when intermittent abuse is followed by sporadic affection. Like a gambler pulling a lever, you stay. Not because you're winning, but because you believe the next pull might change everything. It begins with a high, a rush of attention, charm, and intensity. The abuser showers you with affection and makes you feel chosen. Then comes the confusion, a mood swing, an outburst, a withdrawal. You feel destabilized, uncertain. You ask yourself what you did wrong. Then comes the apology, or what seems like one. A small act of kindness, a vulnerable confession, maybe even tears. You feel relief, closeness, even hope. You tell yourself the storm has passed, that they're trying, that they just need help. But then it happens again, and again, and again. Each cycle of abuse and reward deepens your bond with them. You begin to conflate pain with love, chaos with passion, inconsistency with depth. You believe that your suffering is proof of the relationship's intensity, but it isn't. It's a symptom of psychological dependency. Trauma bonds don't form because you're weak. They form because you're human, and your nervous system has been hijacked by unpredictability. One woman told me she stayed with her partner for years after he broke her down emotionally, isolated her from friends, and gaslit her into believing she was unstable. Why? Because sometimes, on the good days, he made her feel like the most important person in the world. But trauma bonding is not love. It is emotional addiction. And like any addiction, the first step to freedom is withdrawal. To break the bond, you must do what feels unnatural. Stop seeking their validation. Detach from their apology. Walk away even when they promise to change. They've trained your brain to crave their crumbs. But healing begins when you stop starving for what hurts you. Love is not pain. Connection is not captivity. And your worth is not defined by your ability to endure someone else's damage. You can leave, you can heal, and the bond will break once you stop feeding it. Chapter 7. Psychological Warfare. There is a kind of war that leaves no bruises, no broken bones, only silence, shame, and confusion. It is not fought with fists, but with doubts, not with weapons, but with words. And it is waged not on the battlefield, but in your mind. This is psychological warfare. It is not loud. It is precise. It is the repeated erosion of your confidence, your boundaries, your voice. You may have experienced it without ever knowing its name. It starts when the abuser begins to isolate you, emotionally, then physically. Your friends seem distant. Your family feels judgmental. They don't understand you, the abuser says. Only I do. Next, the rules start to shift. What made them happy yesterday makes them angry today. Their moods control the climate of your life. And you are always adjusting, always guessing, always trying to stay ahead of their storm. Then comes the distortion of identity. You're too sensitive, too selfish, too dramatic. You are not who you used to be. You are who they say you are. And the more you try to resist, the more they twist your resistance into proof of your instability. They'll say things like, "You're overreacting. You always do this. You're just trying to start a fight." Each statement isn't about truth. It's about control. And each one chips away at your clarity, your center, your ability to know what's real. That is the goal of psychological warfare. To replace your thoughts with theirs. To destroy your compass so that you rely on theirs. One survivor described it like this. It was like I had become a stranger inside my own skin. I couldn't trust my own reactions anymore. I waited for permission to feel. The abuser doesn't need to trap you in a room. They trap you in doubt, in loyalty, in fear. And when you finally collapse from the pressure, they say, "See? I told you you were broken." But you're not broken. You're under siege. And like any war, the first step to survival is realizing you're in one. Reclaim your thoughts. Speak your truth. Name what's happening. Because silence is their ally, and awareness is yours. This is not just a fight for mental clarity. It is a battle for your soul. And you can win it once you stop asking for their permission to be free. Chapter 8. Spotting red flags early. Red flags rarely wave. They whisper. The beginning of manipulation is almost always disguised as care. The predator doesn't pounce. They observe. They charm. They disarm. And if you don't know what to look for, their harm will wear the costume of love. The first red flag is speed. They move fast, emotionally, physically, relationally. They want commitment, not connection. Intimacy before trust. Promises before reality. They say things like, "I've never felt this way before," or "You're different from anyone I've ever met." It sounds romantic, but it's not love. It's strategic enmeshment. Then comes the subtle devaluation, veiled in humor, wrapped in concern. You look better without makeup. You always get too emotional. Why do you need so much attention? You brush it off. Laugh with them. Try to be chill. But something in your body tenses. That's not just discomfort. That's your intuition trying to speak. The next red flag is the imbalance of space. Suddenly, you're always together. Your hobbies fade. Your routines shift. Your friendships are neglected. But it feels like passion until it starts to feel like possession. And then comes the guilt. Not theirs. Yours. You feel bad saying no. You feel selfish for needing time alone. You feel anxious when they're upset, even when you did nothing wrong. You start changing, not in ways that grow you, but in ways that shrink you. The real warning signs of dark psychology are not what they do, but what you start doing in response. When you betray yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you're not in love. You're in danger. Listen to how you feel after being with them. Do you feel seen or evaluated? Empowered or controlled? Calm or confused? Because confusion, not clarity, is the preferred climate of manipulators. The sooner you spot these signs, the sooner you can walk away before the damage is deep. Red flags are not proof of weakness. They are invitations to choose yourself before someone else rewrites who you are. Chapter 9. Emotional Armor. Self-protection strategies. You will not win this battle by being nicer, or more forgiving, or more understanding. You win by becoming immune to the very tactics designed to control you. That immunity isn't built in anger or revenge. It is built in clarity, boundaries, and self-respect. Emotional armor is not about coldness. It is not about shutting down. It is the opposite. It is about knowing who you are so completely that no one can convince you otherwise. Let's begin with the foundation: self-trust. Manipulators thrive on doubt. They test you by pushing small limits, watching how you react. If you flinch, they keep going. If you fold, they escalate. But if you pause, breathe, and choose your response instead of reacting, their grip weakens. Self-trust means listening to your intuition, even when it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. It means honoring the feeling in your gut that says, "This is not right," even when your heart wants to stay. Then comes boundaries. A boundary is not a wall. It is a door with a lock, and you hold the key. It says, "This is where I end and you begin." It says, "I will not abandon myself to keep you comfortable." Boundaries are not up for debate. They do not require approval. You don't need to explain them, justify them, or soften them for someone else's ego. You simply need to live them. Next is emotional detachment. This does not mean becoming numb. It means becoming discerning. You don't need to absorb every emotion someone throws at you. You are not responsible for their reactions, their pain, their drama. You are responsible for your peace. When you detach, you create space. And in that space, manipulation cannot survive. Because control requires proximity, mental, emotional, physical. When you create distance, you reclaim power. Finally, build a fortress of identity. Know who you are outside of what anyone says. Cultivate solitude. Define your values. Fall in love with your independence. Because when your worth is no longer up for sale, no one can bargain it away. Emotional armor is not the end of feeling. It is the beginning of feeling safely. It's how you walk into a world of shadows with your light intact. You don't need to fight to prove anything. You simply need to stand in your truth. That is more than protection. That is liberation. Chapter 10. Detachment, Boundaries, and Liberation. At some point in your healing, you stop asking why they hurt you and start asking why you stayed. This is not about blame. It's about awakening. Because every manipulative relationship, every abusive dynamic, every betrayal has one thing in common. It ends the moment you decide to reclaim your power. Detachment is that decision. Detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means choosing peace over performance. It means no longer needing to fix, to rescue, to prove, to explain. It means releasing your grip on people who only hold you when they need something. You may have been taught that boundaries are barriers to love. But in truth, boundaries are the blueprint of it. They show where you begin and where manipulation ends. They are not rules for others. They are standards for yourself. There will be moments, many, when you want to go back. When your heart aches for the apology, for the version of them that felt real. But growth often looks like walking alone while your heart begs to turn around. That's how you know you're doing the work. Liberation is not a single moment. It is a series of small, defiant choices. To stop answering, to stop explaining, to stop hoping they'll become who you needed. Detachment is choosing not to suffer for someone else's lesson. Boundaries are choosing yourself, even when guilt whispers not to. And liberation is realizing you never needed permission to walk away. You are not broken. You were manipulated. You are not cold. You are healing. You are not hard to love. You just stopped accepting pain as proof of it. This is your return. This is the end of the shadow game and the beginning of your light. Thank you for listening to The Shadow Game. May you walk forward, clear-eyed, guarded-hearted, and gloriously free. Mindelle.